How are you all doing this morning? How are you all?
Well, good. How are you, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Alhamdulillah, ma'am.
Well,
What about you,
Alhamdulillah,
ma'am?
and very happy Ramadan as well.
thank you. Same to you as well. All right, let's begin. I am going to share my screen with you all. Can you all see my screen now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is what we'll discuss today. And I think we cannot finish it, but let's begin and you see the video that, the animation that I added in the video. Do you like it? I wanted to make today's presentation a bit fancier. Anyways, all right, let's begin. So today we will talk about encoding, decoding model that was proposed by Stuart Hall. All right. Okay. Now, what you already know about encoding, decoding? I'm interested in knowing. What do you already know about encoding, decoding model? Can anyone talk about that? Okay, I remember in last class you said that you have already read encoding, decoding model. I just wanted to see where you are right now, how much background knowledge you have about encoding, decoding. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me quickly revise what you may have read. My understanding is that you actually did not learn in your earlier classes. You did not learn encoding decoding model, the model which was proposed by Stuart Hall. Instead, you only learned the terms encoding and decoding. So let's quickly revise your concepts that you learned earlier about encoding decoding. My understanding is that you have learned what is encoding and then what is decoding. Encoding is when you convert a language into codes that can be transmitted by a machine. That machine can be a transmitter, a radio transmitter, a laptop, internet signals, or anything. So let's say I'm speaking right now and my words right now are being converted into a coded message by this machine that I have in front of me, and this machine is my computer. Now my computer is transmitting my message to you through internet signals, and your machines, your devices, your laptops, your phones, whatever you are using right now, your machines are decoding those messages for you. Now, what is decoding? Decoding is when you convert a coded message into an intelligible, understandable language. That is decoding. I'll write it in the chat box. All right, I just wrote in the chat box what is encoding. Well, here I have only written the literary meanings of the word encoding and decoding. what we are doing right now, it's we are engaged in an encoding decoding process. So I am delivering a message, and my message is encoded by my computer to transmit it through internet signals to you. When those signals get to you, to your device changes those codes into intelligible, understandable language, which is my language, of course, that I am speaking, and that is decoding. So my machine, my computer is encoding my messages, and at your end, your machines are decoding my messages. So that is how this encoding decoding is happening. My first aim was to explain what is encoding decoding in literary meanings, like what we mean by these terms. And now we will discuss what Stuart Hall has said about the process of encoding and decoding. Apparently, it sounds like a technical process. Apparently, it sounds like a process that is done by technology, by machines. However, as you know that Stuart Hall was a scholar of cultural studies. So in this, while describing this process, while describing encoding, decoding process, of course, Stuart Hall has brought in his cultural perspectives into the process of communication. Okay, any questions so far? I'll stop the sharing of my screen to see you all. Any questions so far? Have you all got basic understanding of encoding, decoding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Now let's go back to the slide, and this is the next slide. All right. So Stuart Hall proposed 4 stages in encoding decoding process, and he said that remember you took the course on MCOM 310, and then you also which was related to communication models. Remember, and then you took another course on communication theories 409. Acha. And especially in your course on MCOM 310, you may have learned that communication models have linear shapes, they have circular shapes, they have um, a helical shape like dance model, if you remember. So linear shape is a shape that comes in a straight line. I'm repeating, a linear shape is a shape that comes in a straight line. So remember that equation that you may have learned in MCOM 310, Communication Mass Comm Studies. It says sender, message, receiver. You see, the information goes in one line. From sender, a message is generated and that message leads to receiver. Okay? So that is a linear model. However, here you see it's a Stuart Hall proposes that there is more. Yes, this is Stuart Hall's model is also a linear model. It says this is how communication happens. It begins from production, then goes to circulation, and then goes to distribution phase, and then reproduction phase. It is a linear model, but Stuart Hall actually brings in cultural perspective while talking about encoding, decoding, how I'm going to talk about that shortly. All right. Production stage, of course, is a stage where the construction of the message begins. Circulation stage is actually how a message is perceived and then circulated to audience. Distribution or consumption stage, it is also this stage of use. It is a stage where a meaningful discourse is made or a meaningful discourse is comprehended or understood by audience. And reproduction phase is when audience have interpreted a message according to their beliefs and experiences, and they are ready to transmit message to others. Then that is how they reproduce. Acha. Now, the meanings are all the same that we already know. However, what Hall meant by describing these 4 phases, what he wanted to say was that all of these stages are autonomous and they are interdependent. I will write it in the chat box. Hall specifically said that all of these he said that all of these phases are autonomous. He said that each of this moment is necessary for the completion of information process. However, no one moment, sorry, all right. Now the next sentence that I just wrote is very, very important to understand these stages. What Stuart Hall is saying, he's saying that no one moment can fully guarantee the next moment. What he means is that if, let's say, if the sender of a message has done his best at the production phase, like he has taken like based on his knowledge, and he has taken account of all the means of production and all technical infrastructure, like the message was very best produced at the production stage, but no one moment can guarantee the next moment. It's not, still it's not guaranteed that the information will be fully transmitted or circulated. Similarly, even if the information is fully circulated, fully perceived, fully made sense, again it's not fully guaranteed that the information will be fully consumed or used, that which means that it's not guaranteed that people will fully adopt the information which is transmitted to them. What he meant was that people act upon a piece of information according to their cultural beliefs, according to their experiences, according to their values that they hold within a given culture. So this is the reason that no one moment can guarantee the next moment, can fully guarantee the next moment. So you see now Hall's cultural perspective coming here. He gives importance to culture. He says that the circulation of the production happens in discursive form. I'll write it here. By discursive form, Stuart Hall gives importance to language. Messages are constructed through language, and language is something of primary importance that Hall considers here. I'll move to my next slide, and eventually all these four phases will become further clear to you. Okay. Now there are two main phases. Of course, there is encoding happening, and then there is decoding happening. And according to Stuart Hall, that encoding and decoding is happening within a given culture. Now you see, Stuart Hall said that messages are transmitted in a given culture, and people tend to circulate or use those. Remember, go back to, people tend to by circulation, Stuart Hall means perceive. I mean, messages will be circulated when they are perceived, of course. So messages will be circulated and then used according to people's perception, according to people's experiences in a given culture. Now, he said that for encoding and decoding to happen, there has to be an equivalence on both sides. What is the meaning of equivalence? What is the meaning of the word equivalence? Come on.
Ma'am, does it means that both the receiver and the sender should be at the same level of understanding, or?
Yes, sender and receiver. Very good. So equivalence means the condition of being equal, which means that he's saying that in order to have an effective communication, and effective communication is when there is 100% understanding. In order to have an effective sort of communication, there should be a level of equivalence on encoding side and then on decoding side. Okay? So distortion or misunderstanding only happens when there is lack of equivalence between the two sides. Shahbaz, was it Usama who just answered? Who answered my question related to equivalence? Was it Usama?
Yes, sir. It was me. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. It was me.
yes, very good. So let me explain this with the help of an example. Again, please listen to this very carefully. That I am giving this example only for educational purposes, only for academic purposes, only to explain you the situation. This does not mean that the example that I am giving also relate to my views, to my personal views, or to my personal beliefs. I'm only giving this example for educational purposes, and I would like to apologize in advance if this example hurts anyone's cultural or religious sensibilities. I will give you this example from the release of the drama Mere Paas Tum Ho. Okay? That it is often, and media wrote about it. There were many articles in Daily Dawn about the drama Mere Paas Tum Ho. There were articles in the news, and not only that, there was a gossip happening in social media soon after the drama was released. Now you see, and people were very well receiving it. I read an article in Daily Dawn that commented on the fact that Mere Paas Tum Ho was a drama serial which was more popular among men as compared to women. And why is that? And the writer commented on that situation as well. The writer was of the view that whenever it comes to the matters of sexual misconduct, or whenever it comes to the matters of infidelity, usually it's women who are held more accountable. This is Pakistan's social culture. See, now if there is a writer and coder who has written a message within that totally relates to people's experiences, beliefs, right? And then this message is being decoded by an audience according to their cultural perspective. See, so there is a complete level of equivalence maintained in this situation. And given Pakistan's patriarchal structure of the society, the drama became very popular. And one of the reasons for the drama's popularity was that it was in consonant with Pakistan's Pakistan's patriarchal, stereotypical culture. All right. Questions, please. Does it all make sense? The example that I just gave and the explanation that I just gave, does it all make sense? Questions, please. I'll stop here to take your questions, and I'll also stop the sharing of my screen. Questions, please. All right. I think I have, I tried my best to find a suitable example from our culture. And let me also tell you that Hall's encoding decoding model is one of the seminal essays. The model appeared in 19. The Adil, do you want to ask something or say something? I heard if someone wanted to say something, maybe.
No, ma'am, there is a connectivity issue with my internet. So now I'm recently joined. Sorry for that.
That's okay. Yeah, I saw you disappearing and then coming back again. Stuart Hall's model, it appeared in an edited book as a book chapter. The book came out in 1980s. At, 1980s. If I'm not mistaken, the name of the book was Culture, Sign and Media, something like that. And Stuart Hall's chapter is only 12 pages long, not a difficult read, very interesting read. This time on Moodle, after I finish my lecture, I am going to upload Hall's lecture. Sorry, not Hall lecture. What am I talking about? Forgive me. I am going to upload Hall's original essay. Its name is this was the title of the essay. Okay, this was the title of the essay, Encoding slash Decoding. The essay appeared in a book which was published by Routledge and came out in 1980s. However, I need to recheck, but I am not sure. I think the essay was written somewhere in 1973, and when it was written in the context of television discourse. Okay, so if you have any research question, if you already working on a research project, if you're already writing a thesis or something like that, and you are working on drama serial or anything, so you see in that context, this encoding decoding model is very apt and very relevant and suitable. So and consider the time period when the model appeared, when the essay appeared. That was the time period when TV was the most, I mean, of course, internet was not invented in 1973, not even in 1980s. So that was the time period when TV was popular, it was a popular medium, and for that reason, this model is considered to be one of the seminal essays in the field of communication. I'll go back to the sharing of my screen. I hope I have explained the concept of maintaining a level of equivalence and then lack of equivalence. Is this clear to everyone? The meaning of, he said that the communication fails or distortion or misunderstanding comes in encoding or decoding process whenever there is a lack of equivalence between the two sides of communication, between encoder and decoder. In order to have an effective communication, in order to have a successful communication process, there needs to be an equivalence between encoder and decoder. And I also related it with the help of an example. Go ahead, Fatima, you have a question, please ask.
Ma'am, you mentioned about television analysis. So, would it mean like it's similar to the critical discourse analysis of the linguistic features we do for research, for our research when we are doing about talking about like how the media, like news articles, are being biased? So is it similar to that, or is it different?
Yes, it's similar in the sense because Stuart Hall in this model pays special attention to language. However, this model describes a visual analysis, like analysis of a televisual material, not a textual material. You talked about critical discourse analysis. Critical discourse analysis is something that is related to textual analysis. Does that make sense?
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, for example, like any linguistic analysis has some features that we have to see in newspaper articles. So for television analysis, are there any similar features that we have to look into the media content produced on the television?
What we usually do for TV, for content on TV analysis, Fatima, that is semiotics. You know, semiotics is the, I'll write it in the chat box. Wait a minute. That is known as semiotics. When I end today's class, I encourage you to find the meaning of the word semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols. In visual messages, it's possible. We cannot do a semiotic analysis for a textual material, you know. For textual material, we would usually refer to the discourse analysis. However, whenever we are doing an analysis of material, even for pictures, photography, semiotics. And by the way, semiotics comes from Roland Barthes. It's based, I mean, those who want to, I will write his name, those who want to make sense of semiotic analysis, Roland Barthes is the right person. Even Stuart Hall was influenced by Roland Barthes, and the idea that I'm going to discuss next, it comes in encoding, decoding. It's related to denotative message and connotative message in a meaning that also comes from Roland Barthes. Actually, Hall was inspired uh, uh, by Roland Barthes' messages related to signifier, signified message. So the base actually comes from here. Does this answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this is a very interesting thing that we are going to learn in the next slide. According to Hall, visual discourse, I was saying that Hall's model, I'm not sure, it appeared in a book in 1980 as a book chapter. However, at many places I have seen the date 1973 with it as well. My understanding, it may be wrong. My understanding is that the essay was originally written in 1973 and it appeared in the form of a book chapter in 1980. However, whenever we need
Ma'am, ma'am, in our previous class, one student was giving presentation on this topic, and I guess she also mentioned 1980s, I guess.
Yes, but I have seen 1973 as well. That's why I'm saying my understanding is that the essay was originally written in 1973. However, it came in the form of a book essay in 1980s. But if you want to academically quote this essay, let's say for an assignment, for your classwork, for your exam or a thesis, please stick to the date 1980s because that's the academic quotable date that we can use. Now, according to Hall, visual discourse and encoding decoding, uh, in encoding decoding, Hall actually um, refers to televisual material, and he gave this beautiful phrase, and I'll explain this with the help of an example, and I'll encourage you to give me some more examples. Hall said that a visual the messages that come to us through television, they have oral element. I'll write it here, audio element. I'll write it oral element. By oral, AURAL, by oral, Hall meant an element that is related to audio, and then visual element. That's what Hall meant. So he said that visual discourse translates a three-dimensional world into two-dimensional planes. Now, see now how reality is being constructed or reconstructed through media. What media is doing, especially television is doing, it's showing, it pretends and it claims that it's showing us reality. Reality is a three-dimensional thing, and media is giving you a two-dimensional representation. Two-dimensional means that you can hear what is happening there and you can see, but still you are missing many things. Now, let's say in a video you see flowers. Okay? Let's suppose a situation that you are seeing a video, and that is the video of a scenic place, a beautiful place. A scenic place means somewhere in Sawat or Kagan. You see flowers, and you also in the video you also hear the breeze. Like you can see that the wind is blowing because you kind of hear it in audio. You see the flowers, but can you really smell the fragrance of flowers? Can you do that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now that's third dimension. The reality exists in three dimensions. There is a visual part, there is an oral audio part related to hearing. Television is covering those parts. But there is another part which is related to feeling, and you miss that part. This is what Hall meant, that visual discourse translates a three-dimensional world into two-dimensional planes. And to explain this, Hall gives the example of a barking dog, a dog that barks, and he says that you when you see a dog barking on a TV screen, You can see the dog barking, you can hear the dog barking, but the dog cannot bite you. That's the third dimension of reality that television usually misses out. And this is how television tends to construct the reality. I think I should stop this lecture because now I have 7 minutes left, and I'll let you give some more examples. Now, Hall was a kind of writer. He was a cultural studies professor, of course, but he was a kind of writer who was interested in ideas related to representation, how media represents things. Okay? He was very very interested in ideas related to representation, and he is known for that. Hall is known for many times students do thesis with me, and some students come up with really really good topics. Last semester there was a student who studied the role of fairness screens, uh, uh, the role of fairness screens in the promotion of stereotypes related to women. Now, fairness creams, there are tons of fairness creams, by the way, in the market. There is Fair and Lovely, there is Pfizer beauty cream, there is Golden Pearl beauty cream. So her research was related to that, how the messages that come in these advertisements, both in audio form and visual form, how those messages promote stereotypes. That was her message. So you see, in this is a kind of research project where that student was studying representation, how beauty is represented by beauty queens. Okay? Now, in that case, Stuart Hall, of course, is the most suitable theorist to study and to employ his theories. And I was saying that Stuart Hall has uh, contributed a lot in theories related to representation, and his work is famous actually for his articles on representation. And in televisual discourse, I was trying to explain you the argument that according to Hall, television presents a three-dimensional reality into a two-dimensional plane, and that is how reality gets to change when it comes to the idea of representation. And then there are his ideas related to message, related to language, because Hall always pays attention to language. He says that language exists outside reality. I am leaving today's lecture on this quote of Hall, and you will explain this quote to me in next class with examples. Okay. This was Stuart Hall's quote, and you can find this quote in the essay. Like I said, I will upload original essay and coding decoding essay on Moodle soon after I end this class. I expect you all to have read that essay before that class, inshallah. That's a very like hardly 10 to 12 pages essay, not difficult for you to read. Please come prepared to talk about more about encoding and decoding. I haven't finished the discussion of that model yet, but I wanted to end today's class with this quote of Hall, and you will explain this to me in our next session, inshallah. Hall says that language exists outside reality. What does Hall mean by this? Think about it. Try to relate it with reality, with your experiences, and then we'll of course I'll explain if you have any problem. Now, do you have any other example related to how media transmits a three-dimensional reality into a two-dimensional plane? Any other example that comes into your mind, or any question or anything? Last 3 minutes. I assume that you will have more questions after you will read Hall's essay. And I look forward to that. I hope you will be prepared for next class. I am going to upload the essay soon after I end the class. And inshallah, I'll see you all on Friday. Okay? With questions. All right. And in that class, inshallah, we will finish our encoding, decoding, and if we get time, we will also begin our learning and our discussion on the topic of ideology, and especially in reference to Louis Althusser. He was a French scholar, Louis Althusser, and he greatly influenced Stuart Hall. Hall was very strongly influenced by Althusser. Althusser also was a neo-Marxist, but he is not associated with Birmingham School or Frankfurt School because you see, he's a French scholar. All right, I'm going to end today's class. If you do not have any questions, I'll see you all on Friday. Okay? Thank you and goodbye.
Allah Hafiz, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.